Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Does anyone have things to add to the agenda other than just looking at the remaining task on the milestone? All right, about 5 minutes after, so I guess we can kick this thing off. The only two things I put on the agenda were just chatting about what's left on the milestones, see if we can knock out any of these issues. Or PRs even. So, let's see, I'll move things to other windows so I can share them here. So we got one here, which is 491. Let me do my normal, open a few windows up so I can see chat messages, the process here. Okay. So this one we had chatted about a few times back and forth. And this is just kind of cleaning up one of the extra use cases in the spec that I don't think anybody ever needed, which was that there was a scenario where you could push the refer to a manifest didn't exist. And the spec originally had some language in there, or currently, till we change it, has some language in here that says that if you push one that doesn't exist, the registry, if you query it in the refers API, it can come back with just an empty list, even though you have refer up there. And so this just taking that one use case out of there. If you push refer up and the registry accepts it, this is saying that the registry needs to give that response back that lists that manifest in the referer's response, just like every other manifest or every other refer. And then there's some test cases around that as well. Any questions on that? People that are willing to give feedback, I guess. Let's see. We need someone like one of the distribution spec maintainers to chime in on that one. And I don't think we have anybody here that hadn't already done this. So. Ian's thumbs up, thumbs down. Everybody's quiet after the holidays, not ready for this stuff yet. I'm going to take the silence as everybody's just getting back from the holidays and still catching up on way too many things right now. The other open issue we've got, or open PR, is this refers header, which we had chatted about it in an issue way back when, where the request was back in July, that we add some kind of present or absent header there for when a client queries a registry and says, give me this manifest, that the registry can give the client some kind of feedback to indicate whether or not it's even worth querying the refers API. And so we had this request, went back and forth, and one of the solutions that came out of that was to define a new header in here. And the new header said OCI refers absent, which was just, you query this manifest, don't even bother trying to query for refers because they aren't there. And otherwise, the client just falls back and assumes that either registry isn't going to tell it, which that's perfectly possible because this is a may, it's not a must, not even a should. So if the registry doesn't give that response, this will just fall back to the clients. If they need to get refers, they'll query it directly. And otherwise, yeah, the normal use cases still go through as normal. Let's generate a little bit of back and forth, but I don't think we had any solid reviews on it, even after the issue had been worked on for a while. Oh, hey, Josh reviewed that one now. Thanks, Josh.
So if we have feedback from Mike and he's not here, how do we treat that? If we address his feedback, then
If we get 2 approves on this thing, then I would say it's worth pinging Mike and saying, hey, last call, if you got any questions on this we haven't resolved. But until we get the 2 approves on it, I don't know how much it's worth for us to try to close out his feedback. I think we have answered everything he asked because he went through a bunch of different situations. And so I walked through here are the different scenarios I realized that might be out there, because he was trying to propose that we have a present header in there. And I don't think the present header gives any value considering all the different use cases that are out there. It might make sense for, instead of just a present response, to say, here is where you can go get the refer. And so that would eliminate an extra hop in there and potentially could give the client some kind of verification that if it is a content addressable location, that you've got some kind of key in there that you can verify and see that this has changed since the last time I queried it or it hasn't changed. And so you know whether or not to query it a second time. I don't think any of that is covered by this PR. This PR was just covering the real simple use case of it's not there. Just let clients know that it's not there, and then we can add on more use cases we can want in the future. All right, so that was answering this question. We do have another issue out there for John that I'd had queued up for a while, but otherwise I think the only big one out there is the ever popular issue we all know about, 459 to allow registries to reject. I don't see Derek on the call today. My feeling on this one, given our call before the holidays, it's been a bit since that one, was that we had agreed that people are already using this, and so the changes that Derek is proposing to extend it should be backward compatible and conformant. And so if we're going to do that, we can push out any changes for this to a 1.2 or later if we need to. So this wouldn't be a blocker, is my assumption. And I think that's all I got. Anybody else have ones that you want to talk about today?
It might be useful just on this one, just because it's been contentious, to maybe write down, Brandon, that understanding you just said, just to get some confirmation that this is going to be deferred. That's also my understanding, but I think it makes sense to make sure Derek and others have that understanding too.
Yep, I can put a comment on the end of that one. Let's see, any other agenda items popped up? I see none. And the people that popped up, oh, John showed up. John, since you're here, and only because you're here, we've got, where's the mouse?
Oh no.
You knew it was going to come to this. Or we were talking about the pagination.
Would you believe there's been about 24 hours since I last looked at this of actual working hours for me?
I would completely believe that, especially with holidays and drama and everything else going on.
It's on my list.
Okay. I think you're on distribution, aren't you? Go here.
I sure
So,
am.
if you're on distribution, we did have a few that we were chatting about here, which if we get approves on 491 and approve on 463, I think we can go back to Mike and ask Mike if he is comfortable with us clearing out his review and getting those merged.
Has there been more chatter on 463 since our last meeting?
No, this one's just been pretty stagnant.
I'm gonna ignore that.
It looks like, and I don't know when you jumped in, so I was chatting, wasn't looking at all the new faces showing up. I think what Mike was asking about was, hey, you added an absent header. What about a present header? And a present header in itself doesn't help clients in any way, because a client that needs to get refers is going to check refers whether or not there was a present header there. And a client that doesn't need refers is going to check it either way, even if you tell it there refers. But a client that needs refers and you tell it there aren't refers, that's where you get the value from the client side. The only other thing that I think could possibly be another PR separate from this one is to have some kind of content addressable, unique value, e-tag, whatever we want to think about it, that says, if you query the refers, here's the unique value of it. So you don't have to keep querying the same value over and over again when the registry knows that it hadn't changed.
I know last time we talked about Michael Brown's concern, which I share. I'm going to comment this on the pull request so that it doesn't get lost to time, but I would love a positive signal from the client that they care about this information, so that as a registry, you can not do wasted work ever. And the client cannot do wasted work ever as well.
So for the client to say, I would like to query for refers, tell me if I need to.
Yeah, like an ultimatum, you know. Tell me if there's something there, or else I'm gonna ask for it anyway.
Yeah.
And so that way we're not adding a potentially expensive query to every request, only requests where the client actually wants that information.
Do we want to put that in this PR, or do we want to make that a separate? Because all of these are maze right now. We're not doing anything the registries must implement.
Yeah. My only concern with merging this and having that be in a follow-up PR is that it never happens, and then yeah. I would like for clients who are checking this header to also be sending a header, and not ever have someone like implement this part and not the other. Maybe that doesn't matter. I don't know. I'm very tired. I'm sorry. I'm going to comment the concern and idea, and then we'll muse.
Okay.
I think that makes sense. Like, to make sure that this actually gets used, and like registries just don't implement it because it's too expensive because the other thing didn't get in.
It would also give feedback to registries that are thinking about whether or not they want to implement it, if there's a demand or not. Sajay, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I kind of like, I'm torn by this, and I kind of agree with what Jonathan is saying here. There's a case where the manifest API has now become load bearing for artifacts that are probably not related to the main manifest itself. So let's say somebody deletes and adds a refer, deletes a refer, adds a refer, deletes a refer in some kind of a chain. Then this header needs to get updated in some side cache, and there's a bunch of problem when you kind of like try to query that. So it's an expensive operation either way. From the server side, I get the value on the client side, but definitely there's consistency that the manifest API would now have to maintain. So I'm still not sure we can get to this very soon. So it might just be one of those APIs that is a good to have, but not actually be implemented. And I think Mike Brown from ECR also kind of like mentioned that it's more costly. So I would just keep that in mind before we merge this. I just want to put it out there because it is costly to implement either way in a proper, consistent manner.
And given that I'm perfectly comfortable if nearly nobody uses this, and maybe there's just 1% of registries that decide to implement it, and that's great. It's an efficiency that when or if someone wants to add, they can add it.
I think the consistency is equally important, right? Like, let's say, for example, if there are no referrers and And if it's come and gone, and if that header has an inconsistent value, then you end up either pulling or not pulling the referrers, depending on the client. So the client just fails because the cache was not updated properly. That's kind of what I'm more concerned about. I think for static content, it makes sense, right? If it's not changing on a frequent basis, then it's okay. But for much more dynamic content where manifest deletes or tag deletes are all enabled, then this becomes a little bit more tricky.
But the delete, I'm not quite as worried because the delete of a refer, you're only going to give the absent header. And so there's no present header to say, hey, there was something, now there isn't. It's only if you knew there wasn't something before and now they delete something. Well, there wasn't anything there before to delete if you were given the absent header.
Okay, so then it's a maybe kind of a, okay, so semantic is like there might be a referrer in some way.
The semantic is you query this manifest and the registry is telling you, please don't even query the refers. They're not there. And so the condition to worry about is if someone pushed the manifest and then immediately pushed the refer.
Right.
And now the registry is worrying about race conditions. So it needs to keep an eye on this stuff on, some kind of immediate basis. But as soon as a manifest has any refer, then it knows just throw the header out there. Or sorry, it knows to not put the header out there.
So maybe I can give some details of internally the cache that works, right? So the digest is pretty much the cache at some point in time. So, and basically what we're saying is that we need to kind of like update the response cache or something like that, whoever is implementing this, depending on a refer artifact that got pushed. That's the concern here. I'll leave it at that. It's because it's a May, it's kind of, it's not blocking in any way. So, but there is cost associated with anybody trying to implement this stuff.
Yep, I totally get there's cost. I think I had also heard some people that were looking at how they were querying and using mirrors. And so they would query from one registry and pull content from other mirror locations. And so they wanted to be able to know not just that there are refers, but the exact content addressable store location of those refers as well. And so I think there are a handful of different use cases in here to consider. All right, so John, awesome, we got you on that. We'll go ahead and before 91, I'll ping Mike on that one and say, Mike, yes or no on this one. We'll get that taken care of. And if we want to add an extra header in there, does anyone have preferences for what the client header should be on this? Should it be the exact same name, but just from the client side, the client says, hey, give me OCI refers request? Or do folks want to have a different header?
This is almost getting to be like the accept semantic where the client asks for something and the server says the ANA kind of thing.
Yeah, the client header would be on the client request versus on the server response. And just for manifest as pulling. So I'm wondering, do we want to reuse the same key or header name and just give it a different value? Or do we have some other preference of a header to put in there? And I also see Brian in the chat talking about clients that want specific refers. Absolutely, yes. And at the same time, we made filtering optional. And so if a registry doesn't filter the refers response, then you can cache all the refers responses at that point and just give that to everybody.
Hi, bro.
Hi, Azam. Welcome.
Hello.
All right. Nobody has opinions on what the name is. That means I'm going to put a name and everybody's going to complain about what the name is, aren't they?
Hello.
We can hear you, Hazem. Michael Brown, which one is that?
Hello.
Hi, Hazem.
Other Michael Brown.
Hello. I'm sorry. How are you?
Hi, Hazem. We can hear you.
I'm good. I'm in the Arabic. This language a little, okay?
Was there anything you
Hello?
had for the meeting, Hazem?
Yes. This audio cut. Hello.
We can hear you.
Bro, this you have over for me in the my data. Sure? No, audio. No, no.
You were muted, Brandon, but I think Hazem was asking if you can see his screen. I think we can confirm that.
Hello. Hello. سعيد سعيد
All right.
This good now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, bro. What's over and my data for my data? What's have over?
Don't think I understand the question there. Was there something for OCI that you were looking to have answered this week?
This audio for very loose. No clear.
guess not. He might have been on the wrong meeting, Sajay, you're right. Might jump through the effort of grabbing the host key for nothing, but figured just in case. All right, anything else we want to chat about this week? Any other open items people have? Or folks who's trying to get back from the holidays and want 30 minutes back? Actually, there is one thing I wanted to throw out there. I still haven't opened a PR on it yet, but I'd like to define a couple of annotations for the OCI layout when people have a refers response in the OCI layout. One of which would be, here is a refers response for a specific digest. And the other key being at the top level of the OCI layout to say this layout has been converted to have refers versus people pushing a fallback tag in the OCI layout. And I may be one of the only people that ever cares about that, but here, I'll just give a heads up that I was going to open some PRs for that. Not contingent on 1.1, they can go in later on, but just something I'd like to add at some point here. All right, I hear a lot of silence. I think everybody wants 30 minutes back and continue on with the rest of their day. Last call for any items before we call it. Going once. Going twice. All right, have a good rest of your week. And I'll get some videos posted. I know I missed the last week we were here, so I'll get those posted as well and get this one up shortly later on. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks again, Brandon.
Thanks. Bye.